Coach Tony.
Okay, folks, we are back, and you are with Hey Coach Tony this fine Saturday morning on ESPN Radio. And this morning we are talking about whether or not college athletes and amateur athletes in general should get paid based on the revenue that they're producing. And we had gotten an email in here from Dom. By the way, the studio lines are open at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. But I don't want to cut off my response to Dom. He went to the trouble of writing those 3 pages of email, so I'm going to finish my response. We talked about the fact that paying the athletes, if you think that's the answer, you're really not thinking anywhere past your first move. And I'll give you a great example. Let's just try to figure out, and lock yourself in a room with 2 other idiots, and try to figure out who gets paid what. Do you pay the kicker the same as the quarterback? Do you pay the scholarship player the same as the walk-on? And who gets to decide that? Right there, I think you got 2 hours of banging your head against a wall. All right? Now, Dom, another point that you nailed in your email is that it is indeed, without question, the student-athlete's responsibility to use their education. And I love the fact that you actually use the word exploit there. We keep talking about how these institutions are exploiting the athletes. Why don't the athletes just turn around and exploit the university? Plenty of guys do it. They take their free, top-notch education, and they apply themselves, and they become successful professionals. There's no reason a kid can't use that system to get his or her free education and then move on to become a success based on nothing more than that free education that we're throwing around like it's not worth anything. By the way, when you play for a big-time school like the ones that are supposed to be paying their players, there are so many other benefits besides just that free education. And again, I don't want to toss a free college education to the side. Just ask any mom and dad who's writing a check, and they'll tell you it's worth plenty. But I'll give you an example. Do you know that Alabama pays roughly $8,000 a day just to feed the football team? $8,000 a day. Free meals, not a bad side incentive. Can you imagine what the rooming costs are? Do you know what they get? They get free tutoring as well. I mean, I can't even imagine the other things that come along with that free education. So please don't expect me to cry for these kids. I mean, the rock star life that they are leading is something most people would kill for. But once these spoiled little babies get used to it, they just want more. All right, 855-HEY-COACH is the number, and you know what? Actually, I think we're going to start going to some of your calls. You know what? We're going to go to John, who's calling in from Long Island. Hey, John, you're on Hey Coach Tony. What's going on? John, you with us? All right. Hey, John, do me a favor. Try to call back in if if you can. We're having a little problem with the phone line this morning. Phone lines again, 855-HEY-COACH. It's 855-439-2622. And we'll certainly get to your calls in just a second here. Before we do get back to your calls and we'll figure this out, I do want to get to a couple more emails that came in. We got one from my good buddy Jerry who emails us in from White Plains, and he says, "Hey, Coach Tony, one thing that stood out in the HBO special was the fact that the video game companies are using the likeness of many former college athletes in their games and are not paying royalties to those players. What do you think of that?" Well, Jerry, a great point as always. And I got to tell you, I thought a lot about that one myself because it doesn't seem right. You have a grown man who's being used in a video game, and it just doesn't seem right that at that point he's not getting paid. But I think I got a solution to this one. As long as a kid is playing for a college, and, again, let me know what you think. As long as a kid is playing for a college and is what I'll call an active card-carrying member of the NCAA, any royalties do indeed fall under the current guidelines. And as an amateur, he or she cannot get paid. Now, my suggestion is once the player leaves college, he or she should be entitled to those royalties. I mean, that would actually solve that problem right there. However, that is a rule that I recently learned needs to be changed, because when any player signs his or her acceptance into the NCAA, there's already a clause in that contract that states something like, and I'm not quoting it, but it's something like this: the NCAA reserves and retains the rights to your image and likeness forever and throughout the universe. You heard that right. Forever and throughout the universe. Now, I get the concept of forever. It's a greedy position to take, but forever, I got it. But throughout the universe? Really? Is EA Sports coming out with a new game called Alien versus the Fab Five or Phi Slamma Jamma? I mean, these guys at the NCAA, these guys really know how to cover their butts, huh? Anyway, Jerry, great question, and I think that one definitely falls into the category of a rule that needs to be changed. But at the same time, you know what? Don't hold your breath waiting for the NCAA to change it anytime soon. All right, so I believe we got the phone lines figured out here. So we are going to try to go back to John, who is calling in from Long Island. Hey, John, I hope you're on. Hey, Coach Tony, how you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Coach Tony. How are you?
All right, only one phone snafu. I'm pretty happy. This is my brother John, correct?
First of all, you cut me off before I even have a point to make. You hang up the phone on me. Yes, there's your brother John.
All right, well, that was the phone system. What's going on in Long Island, John?
I think a great topic this morning. I think a lot of people can be along the fence on it a little bit, where you can see both sides of the story. But, I mean, you can look at the NCAA making an obscene, and these colleges, an obscene amount of money off these kids. I'm talking about money you can't imagine. But if you also look at it as the players, somebody get a calculator out, and I think you made the point before, and figure out how much a 4-year education at a major university costs. Find out how much meal money these kids get on a daily basis. Find out how much the facilities these kids work out in all year long cost. Find out how much traveling in first class as college students across the country at these major universities cost. The schools and the NCAA do put some of the money back. And granted, they do keep some of the money for some other things that maybe a lot of these people aren't happy about. But again, you know going in what you're in store for. You know that you're gonna get a scholarship. You're not gonna get paid millions, except for the Cam Newtons and the Reggie Bushes and those guys who all make their side deals with these universities beforehand.
Sure.
I mean, and where do you, like you said before, where do you cut the line? Does everybody make the same amount of money? Do the starters get more money than the backups? When you become from second string to first string, do you get a bump up in pay? And you're still going to get, the superstars are still going to get the money at the end with pro contracts and everything else.
Well, forget about the contracts. It's never going to do away with the illegal, what they call the money handshake and the money under the table and all this other stuff. And by the way, you started this, in theory, with the only way this can work. Everyone's got to get paid the same. Well, guess what?
Correct.
That's already there. That really, in essence, what the schools are giving up in tuition and scholarships. And, by the way, many people don't know, a big difference in Division I versus Division II is the amount of scholarships that you're allowed to give away or give out. And even Division I and 1A and 1AA, there are differences in the amount of scholarships that you can give out. So, at some point, the big-time schools become like, for lack of a better term, the New York Yankees, and they'll just have more money to spend. There would be such a horrible lack of parity in college football and basketball in particular, because, again, these people can now go out and buy talent. It does away with the whole notion of amateur sports. And I don't know if you saw, did you watch the HBO special?
No, but I did look up online and check out bits and pieces of it.
Oh, my God. That one guy who was just advocating for every inner city kid, and I'm going to get to that in a second. I mean, my
God.
God.
See, that's my point. If you're looking at when you view sports as a way down the road to make money, you're going to view it differently than a kid who just goes there to try to get an education and play sports and maybe make it to the pros one day. If you're going to view... And that's where the lines are going to be drawn. If you're viewing sports as a way to make a living down the road and using college as an opportunity to promote yourself and try to get out there on TV and ESPN, you're going to view it night and day differently than the kid who's just going, hey, I got my college paid for. Parents are proud of me and everything else. It's two different ways of looking at it.
And you just nailed it. You just nailed it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you look at all the sob stories they try to outline, and the few in particular they did on HBO, these are kids who clearly viewed college as a placeholder until they made their millions and millions of dollars. They didn't take school seriously, and nobody even asked them to take it seriously. So there are flaws, but there's one idiot on HBO who said, let's put financial incentives out there for these kids to graduate. Let's give them $100,000. And he actually used that term. Nobody gave me $100,000 when I graduated college, nor should anybody give it to these guys. Hey, John, listen, John, listen, I got to get to a break. Great call. That's my brother John. He calls in from time to time and helps us out with the show because he's opinionated and he's always a great guest on the show. But before I can't get into too much more before we go to break. But listen, folks, before I go to break, listen, we end around 10 o'clock, and I'm sure you got some things to do, some errands to run. You're going to check out a game or two with the kids. But at some point during the day today, all of you in the listening area are relatively close to Somers. Make sure you go grab a terrific lunch or dinner at Somers 202 Tavern in Somers, New York. There is always something good going on at Somers 202, which is located, creatively enough, on Route 202 in Somers. Call them today at 914-248-8100 and make your reservation today. You can sit in their elegant dining room for a terrific dining experience, or just grab some wings and sit at the bar while you watch one of the games on their big flat screen TVs. Somers 202 is a place that the whole family's going to love, so go see my buddy Joe Maz, and when you go there, you tell him Coach Tony sent you. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. Stick around, folks. Be right back.